Much more difficult in the cyber area to construct an international regime based on treaty commitments and rules of the road and so forth. Although we've tried to have discussions with the Chinese and Russians and so forth about that, but it's very difficult.
Right now, the norm in cyberspace is do whatever you can get away with. That's not a good norm, but it's the norm that we have. That's the norm that's preferred by states that are engaging in lots of different kinds of activities that they feel are benefiting their national security.
Those who excel in cyber are trying to slow down the process of creating regulation. Those who are victims will like the regulation to be in the open as soon as possible.
International law in this area is written by custom, and customary law requires a nation to say this is what we did and this is why we did it. And the U.S. doesn't want to push the law in that direction, and so it chooses not to disclose its involvement.
And one of the reasons that I thought it was important to tell the story of Olympic Games was not simply because it's a cool spy story. It is, but it's because as a nation, we need to have a debate about how we want to use cyber weapons, because we are the most vulnerable nation on Earth to cyber attack ourselves.
If you get up in the morning and turn off your alarm and make coffee and pump gas and use the ATM, you've touched industrial control systems. It's what powers our lives. Use the ATM, turn off your alarm and make coffee and pump gas and use the ATM, you've touched industrial control systems. It's what powers our lives. If you get up in the morning and turn off your alarm and make coffee and pump gas and use the ATM, you've touched industrial control systems. It's what powers our lives. And unfortunately, these systems are connected and interconnected in some ways that make them vulnerable.
Critical infrastructure systems generally were built years and years ago without security in mind, that they didn't realize how things were going to change. Maybe they weren't even meant to be connected to the internet.
And we've seen through a lot of experimentation and through also, unfortunately, a lot of attacks, that most of these systems are relatively easy for a sophisticated hacker to get into. Let's say you took over the control system of a railway. You could switch tracks. You could cause derailments of trains carrying explosive materials. What if you were in the control system of gas pipelines, and when a valve was supposed to be open, it was closed, and the pressure built up that the pipeline exploded? There are companies that run electric power generation or electric power distribution that we know have been hacked by foreign entities to have the ability to shut down the power grid.
Imagine for a moment that not only all the power went off on the East Coast, but the entire internet came down. Imagine what the economic impact of that is. For a moment that not only all the power went off on the East Coast, but the entire internet came down. Imagine what the economic impact of that is. Imagine for a moment that not only all the power went off on the East Coast, but the entire internet came down. Imagine what the economic impact of that is, even if it only lasted for 24 hours.
According to the officials, Iran is the first country ever in the Middle East to actually be engaged in a cyber war with the United States and Israel. If anything, they said the recent cyber attacks were what encouraged them to plan to set up the cyber army, which will gather computer scientists, programmers, software engineers.
If you are a youth and you see assassination of our nuclear scientists, your nuclear facilities are getting attacked, wouldn't you join your national cyber army? Well, many did. And that's why today Iran has one of the largest cyber armies in the world. Well, many did. And that's why today Iran has one of the largest cyber armies in the world. So whoever initiated this and was very proud of themselves to see that little dip in Iran's centrifuge numbers should look back now and acknowledge that it was a major mistake.
Very quickly, Iran sent a message to the United States. Very sophisticated message. And they did that with 2 attacks. First, they attacked Saudi Aramco, the biggest oil company in the world, and wiped out every piece of software, every line of code on 30,000 computer devices. Then, Iran did a surge attack on the American banks.
The most extensive attack on American banks ever, launched from the Middle East. The most extensive attack on American banks ever, launched from the Middle East. The most extensive attack on American banks ever, launched from the Middle East, happening right now.
Millions of customers trying to bank online this week blocked. Among the targets, Bank of America, PNC, and Wells Fargo. The U.S. suspects hackers in Iran may be involved. And Wells Fargo. The U.S. suspects hackers in Iran may be involved. And Wells Fargo. The U.S. suspects hackers in Iran may be involved.
See, my question is this. Why would we have been so gullible, so naive, in thinking that we was going to trust everybody else towards playing by the same set of rules whenever it come to bad actors? Why was we so, I'm going to use the word stupid, in setting up these frequencies? And that's exactly what they are. They're frequencies. They're open lines to where anybody can tap in and tap on to that line. We're talking about having visitors that are not welcome, that can launch into a network that can absolutely either destroy that network, or they can captivate the knowledge that's in that network and take it back home with them so that they can use it later. Why would we have not seen that the highway system was going to be abused pertaining to the networks as we was creating these networks? That's what I don't understand. Because we have set ourselves up to be vulnerable in these areas towards cyber attacks. And it's really, really sad, because we're supposed to be one of the greatest nations in the world. We're supposed to be one of the smartest nations in the world. But yet now we have created this monster that can now come back and haunt us. You know, the whole game has been safety, safety, safety. And whenever you start ignoring the fact that other people can violate your own personal safety, then somebody has to be held responsible for this type of negligence. We appreciate you listening to the Windmill Ministries here at 291 Thompson Road. And thanks again for your time, and good luck to all of us. And shalom.